Summer is always a busy time on the island of Sodor. The engines work very hard, but sometimes it's too much work for them to handle. Usually when this happens, Sir Topham Hatt purchases another engine to help out. However, he is not made out of money, so sometimes he has to resort to another method of easing his engine's axles. One morning, he came to the yard to speak with Murdoch and Neville.
I am very pleased with how you two have been handling your workload, he said. But you need help. Goods traffic has proliferated to the point where even you, Murdoch, can't handle it.
With all due respect, sir, said Murdoch, feeling a little insulted. I am one of the strongest steam engines to ever work in this country. He's right, though, said Neville. We may be strong, but we can't do all the work on our own.
Unfortunately, continued Sir Topham Hatt, I do not have enough funds to obtain another permanent engine, a freight engine at that. But I do have a plan B. Tomorrow a diesel from the other railway—
A diesel? Neville burst out.
Neville, please, let me finish, said Sir Topham Hatt.
Sir, back on the Southern, diesels were horrid to my brothers and I. They called us telescopic bread loaves on wheels.
I am trying to help you two out with another engine here to help, said Sir Topham Hatt. We have to make them feel welcome and comfortable.
Neville was still upset at the prospect of him having to work with a diesel. I'd rather work with a wild bull, he thought. At least they wouldn't insult me. But aloud he said, Okay, sir, I'll try.
Excellent, said Sir Topham Hatt. Trust me, I have your best interest in mind. Remember, he arrives at Knapford tomorrow.
He got in his car and drove away, leaving Neville and Murdoch wondering about the visiting diesel. The next morning, Knapford Station was bustling. Gordon was simmering at the platform waiting for Duck to shun his express coaches. But Duck's fire was slow to start.
Duck!
Gordon puffed impatiently.
My coaches!
1 minute, your highness, replied Duck.
I don't need any of your lip, retorted Gordon. You were supposed to fetch my coaches, not give me your sass.
At last, Duck had arranged the coaches. And he pulled up alongside Gordon. Then Duck began to notice something different. Do you smell something? He asked.
Let me guess, Gordon replied. It's ditch water. Ha 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 ha! Very funny.
No, it's not that, puffed Duck. It smells disgusting.
Oi! Put a piece of coal in it!
Snapped a voice. Duck and Gordon looked at each other in shock. They recognized the voice immediately. A big blue diesel pulled into the platform.
Spamcan! Exclaimed Gordon and Duck in unison.
What are you doing here? I thought you were sent away in disgrace 50 years ago, Duck said, still surprised.
You really have been counting?
Asked Spamcan.
Wow, what a loser.
You're missing my point, replied Duck. I was under the impression that you were not supposed to come back.
You think I wanted to return to this dump?
Spamcan said crossly.
I had no choice. If it wasn't for your express freight engines being so incompetent, I would be at home in peace, away from you outdated pieces of junk. Sodor's a dump, eh? Said Gordon smugly. That's a pretty bold statement for an engine whose home is a disused siding.
Not to mention, at least they keep us clean here, retorted Duck.
Ah, shut up,
Spamcan snapped.
Now, if you excuse me, I have some actual work to do. Unlike some engines.
And he scuttled away to the yards to find Neville and Murdoch. Duck was worried and ran off in pursuit of Spamcan. But by the time he got to the yard, it was too late. Spamcan was already there, berating the two goods engines.
So, this is the workforce that the Sodor's Goods Division has to contend with?
He snarled.
A loaf of bread and a big orange lump? How absurd.
That's not funny, puffed Neville. Besides, I already heard those jokes before.
Who said it was a joke? Have you seen yourself?
Murdoch had already lost patience with the diesel. Knock it off, Spamcan, he said sharply. As I recall, you're here to work with us, not against us.
In case you haven't realized, oiled Spamcan, you're both old and weak. I am the future.
Enough, bellowed Duck. The silence that followed was deafening. Spamcan, Murdoch, and Neville went about their work, and nothing more was said. But of course, the very next day, Spamcan was back to his usual self.
"Wake up, cretins!" he tooted.
What Spamcan didn't know was that Neville and Murdoch were still asleep because they had been pulling long trains during the nighttime. They tried to explain, but Spamcan wouldn't listen. "You know what?" snapped Murdoch. "If you want us to prove how much more useful you are than us, you can start by taking my freight train to Barrow."
"Fine,"
Spamcan replied.
"Be prepared to get shown up. Again."
And he purred away. Spamcan arrived at Brendam Docks to pick up Murdoch's freight train. The shunter fastened the coupling and Spamcan set off down the line. Spamcan was making good time, but he was still very cross. He was determined to prove how much better he was than any steam engine, anywhere in the world. He purred along the main line, grumbling all the way.
"I'll show him. I'll show them."
He fumed. He bumped the trucks hard and again, for no reason whatsoever. Before he reached the other railway, he had to stop at Bickerstown to take on fuel. At last, they stopped the train, and Spamcan ran into the yard. His driver checked his watch. He said. 7:22. Not bad, 199.
"Excellent,"
said Spamcan with a sly grin.
"That's one in the headlamp for that big orange buffoon."
Dennis pulled up alongside next to Spamcan. He'd never seen the big diesel before, and he asked him where he was headed.
"According to the workman, I'm to take my train to Barrow,"
said Spamcan. "I'd be careful if I were you," Dennis advised. "The tracks near the Vickerstown Bridge are under repair, and you need to go slowly." Spamcan wasn't listening. He knew Dennis was related to Neville and considered him just as bad as any steam engine solely for that reason.
Yeah, whatever,
replied Spamcan dismissively. At last his tank was refueled, and Spamcan scuttled away. Dennis was worried. "He's in for trouble," he said to himself. Dennis was right. Spamcan refused to listen to the advice he was given and went faster than ever. "Slow down, 199, his driver called frantically. "You heard what that diesel said."
"Who cares?"
growled Spamcan.
"He's not the one pulling the train. Now shut your trap and let's go."
The Vickerstown Bridge, which connected Sodor to the mainland, lay ahead. The trucks decided it was time to teach Spamcan a lesson. They bumped into him fiercely.
On! Faster!
They yelled. One moment, Spamcan was on the rails. The next, he came off the tracks, slithered down the embankment, and landed in the water below. Spamcan felt cold and uncomfortable. His driver was very angry. "This all could have been avoided if you had just listened for once," he scolded. "Well, I hope you enjoy having a swim. I'm going to go get help."
"Wait! You can't just leave me here!"
spluttered Spamcan. "Oh, my mobile's dead, so I've got to go to the nearest payphone," replied his driver. "Maybe when I'm gone, you'll start realizing how much of an idiot you really are sometimes." And he trudged through the water and up the hill. Spamcan felt very silly. He had to wait for a long time. At last, Douglas arrived with the breakdown train. He was very cross with Spamcan and said nothing as the diesel was pulled back onto the rails. Because of the accident, the rails had been badly damaged, so the express was unable to run, forcing people to take the bus instead. Gordon was absolutely furious. But he wasn't the only one. Sir Topham Hatt told Spamcan off profusely. I can't exactly repeat some of the things he said, but let's just say they weren't very polite. The next day, Spamcan was sent home once again in disgrace. Murdoch and Neville were thrilled to have him gone, and now they work even harder to ensure that the big diesel doesn't come back.